Hello everyone. Today I'll talk about Mrs. Dalloway, a novel written by Virginia Woolf. This book is a key work of modernist literature. It was published in 1925. So in this presentation I'll just explain the book's background, setting, character and main events. So everything is explained in simple language so can easily follow that. Let's begin. Moving on about the publication details, first, it is first published in 1925. So in United Kingdom, it was published by Hogarth Press. Hogarth Press was run by Virginia Woolf and her husband Leonard Woolf. So in United States, the novel was published by Harcourt Brace. So this novel is a part of modernist movement in literature. So modernist writers experimented with new ways to tell stories. This narrative technique used here is called a stream of consciousness. That means the story moves through the characters' thoughts and feelings, almost like listening to their minds. It will be a non linear narrative where the perspectives will be shifting from the present to the past and again to the present. So, this is called a stream of consciousness technique. And then moving on, the novel is set in post World War One London in June 1923. The whole story happens within one single day from the morning until the night. So, at the time of publication, this novel didn't win any big prizes or awards, but later it became a central and widely studied work of 20th century literature. And then moving on, the novel takes place in London, mainly in Westminster area. So it is 5 years after World War One, and the city and the people are still recovering from the war's trauma, struggles, and such things. So in London, in the book, the three places of the London city is mentioned here. They are Bond Street, Regent's Park, and Westminster. So there are motor cars, omnibus, streets with the shops and flower sellers. People are moving very quickly, where the city keeps its old tradition too. The Big Ben, the great clock rings often in the story, the which is projected in the image found in the left. This clock has a great bell, so which is called as Big Ben. And then the sound of the Big Ben marks the time and reminds the characters that the life keeps moving forward, whatever happens. And then important places in the novel, as I said, three places are mentioned. This Bond Street, where Clarissa buys flour, and Regent's Park, where Septimus experiences his crisis, and Westminster, where Clarissa Dalloway and her husband Richard Dalloway lives. And then Virginia Woolf makes the city feel alive. The urban landscape acts like a character. Moving on now, we look at the main characters. Starting with Clarissa Dalloway. Clarissa is a central figure of the novel. She is 52 years old and she is a society hostess who plans a big evening party. She lives with her husband, Richard Dalloway, who is the member of the parliament. Clarissa is a reflective and sensitive person. She actually cares about her social life and her appearance. But she also thinks deeply about the meaning of life. She remembers her youth often and sometimes feel both young and old at the same time. Much of the story follows Clarissa's walk through London as she prepares for her party. And then moving on to the next character, Peter Walsh was one. He was her ex-lover. Was one in love with Clarissa. He is a man who left England and lived in India for many years. He's actually an Englishman, not an Indian, but he lives in India. He's returning to England to see Clarissa. Peter still loves Clarissa and is full of feeling and regret for leaving Clarissa alone, for not marrying, for not holding hands of the Clarissa. And then he represents the life Clarissa did not choose. He is emotional, outspoken, and often criticizes the social life. When Peter meets Clarissa again, both of them remember the past. Peter's presence brings up memories and questions about choices and lost opportunities. And then moving on, the third character is Septimus Warren Smith. He is a former soldier. He fought in World War One. He is about 30 years old. The war left him with a deep psychological wounds, and in this novel, he suffers from what is called a cell shock. So today's shell shock is called as post-traumatic stress disorder (PTSD). So Septimus hears voices and has moments of deep fear. He cannot feel safe in ordinary life. And then moving on, Lucretia. She's also called as Ricia, is Septimus' wife, and she is an Italian. Her occupation, her profession is like she'll be making hat. She's a hat maker, Italian hat maker. And then she loves Septimus and tries to help him, but she feels alone in England. She cannot fully understand what Septimus is going through. She's frightened and sad, and she always shows the pain of the family members who watched a loved one suffer. Septimus' story runs parallel to Clarissa's story. Although they never met, their lives reflect similar themes of life, death, and meaning. Moving on, here are some of the supporting characters. First one is Richard Dalloway. He is Clarissa's husband. He is actually a calm, practical, and a member of parliament. He represents stability and public life. And then Elizabeth Dalloway is the daughter of Clarissa and Richard. And she is 17-year-old. She is independent and influenced by her tutor, Miss Killman. So next character is Miss Killman. She is also called as Doris Killman. Here she is the history tutor of Elizabeth. She is poor, deeply religious and bitter. Miss Killman lost her profession due to the war. Because she is a German, she couldn't survey in London. And then the influence of her thoughts and ideas is seen in Elizabeth Dalloway, which is not liked by her mother, Clarissa Dalloway. Clarissa Dalloway, she gets possessive whenever she see the Killman and Elizabeth together. And then Sally Seaton, the fourth character. Sally Seaton is Clarissa's close friend from her youth. And Sally represented freedom and wildness in Clarissa's past. She also once kissed Clarissa, and this remains one of Clarissa's most cherished moments. And then moving on, the novel also includes many smaller but meaningful characters. Hugh Whitebread, a old friend, polite but pompous, often disliked by Peter. He is accompanied with Richard Dalloway to meet Lady Bruton. So Lady Bruton, once she invited this Richard Dalloway and Hugh Whitebread for a lunch, and she asked them to write a letter for London magazine called Times. And then moving on, Dr. Holmes is a cheerful general practitioner. He treats Septimus but misunderstands him. He dismisses serious mental problems. And actually, Dr. Holmes is the person who comes to take Septimus Warrens to the asylum. During the time, Septimus Warrens fell out of the window and he killed his life. He stopped his life. He ended. And then Sir William Bradshaw is a famous psychiatrist. He believes in order and institutional solutions. He talks about proportions and often suggests his patients to be sent to the asylums, to the mental hospitals. So he is the person who suggests to take Septimus Warrens to the asylum. And then Miss Pym is the florist who serves Clarissa with a button-faced cheerfulness. She is very pleasant and a busy woman. And moving on, opening scene. Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself. The novel opens with the very famous line Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself. So this shows the independence of the character. Virginia Woolf want to insist that she is a feminist writer. Obviously, she wants to point wherever she could. She wants to mention that girls should be independent in every aspect of life. Actually, this is given in indirect speech. So this is not mentioned in like I want to buy flowers myself like that. It is given in the indirect speech. You have to make note of that. And then moving on, the Clarissa leaves her home on June morning to buy flowers for her evening party. As she walks, her mind moves between the present and past memories of Burton, her childhood home. She thinks about Peter Walsh and about the day she chose to marry Richard. And this opening walk shows how ordinary actions like buying flowers can open the mind to deep memories and feelings. Clarissa feels both young and old, happy and aware of time passing. And then moving on to the flower shop where Clarissa enters. So this shop's name is Mulberry Flower Shop. The shop is full of flowers, delphium, sweet peas, lilacs, carnations, roses, and irishes. Miss Pym, the florist, she serves her with cheerful hands. The smell of the flower comforts Clarissa. For a short time, she forgets all her worries in that shop. And then the flowers in the novel represents beauty, life, pleasure, and small everyday joys. They are they are places where Clarissa finds peace. Her love for floral beauty is one way she resists the sadness of her life. And while she's in the shop, a loud sound breaks the calm. It is a pistol like band which turns out to be a motor car backfiring. So here, this small shock tries her gentle world to a large and noisy world outside. She is pleasantly, peacefully buying flowers, but outside there is a motor car backfiring in a loud manner. So let's see what the car represents. Here, this motor car stands for mystery. Actually, we couldn't find out who is moving in the car. Everyone in the road, all the passerby, they are wondering who is in the car. Is it the Queen, the Prince of Wales, the Prime Minister? Nobody knows for the certain. So the car actually stands for power, status, and mystery. It creates a moment when strangers come together and feel the same thing: curiosity, respect, and slight fear also. It is kind of a mixed emotion represented by the passerby. And then among those watching is Septimus Warren Smith. Now the entry of Septimus Warren is seen. He sees the car with his own troubled mind and reacts differently from others. This scene actually shows how the same events create very different inner reactions for different people. And then moving on, now we focus on Septimus in more detail. The novel describes him as a thin, pale man who looks frightened and tired. He's about 30 and has a long look of someone who expects danger. So the double quotes is taken directly from the novel. Make note of that. How his appearance is. He is wearing a brown shoe and a shabby overcoat. And yeah, then Septimus returned from the war with deep psychological damage and he sees the world in a strange way. He cannot sleep well, hears strange voices, and feels disconnected from everyday life. And Lucretia, his wife, tries to guide him and keep him safe, but the London world is cold to them, and Regia cannot always help Septimus. This introduces the tragic path Septimus will follow. And then Septimus and Regia go to the Regent's Park. An aeroplane begins to write words with the smoke in the air. The advertisement might read toffee. It is skywriting, as we all know. The airplanes in foreign countries will be advertising letters and symbols in the sky by using the smoke which it is produced. So this skywriting scene represents some deeper feelings to him. Septimus does not see it plainly. He believes that the sky is sending him secret messages. Tears come to his eyes as the smoke letters slowly fade. He sees life as a full of deep meaning and strange connections. He believes trees and the ground are connected to his bodies by millions of tiny threads. So he feels that each and every trees in the nature is connected to his nerves. The fiber of the tree is connected to the nerves of him. And then this scene shows the intensity of his hallucination and how he cannot separate imagination from reality. Regia watches him and feels alarmed. She thinks, I would rather he were dead than live like this. Meaning to say that seeing him struggle living like this, he might die. At least death will give him a comfort. Death is defiance here actually. Death will comfort him. Whatever the worldly pressure or even his wife Lucretia cannot provide satisfaction or the comfortness, coziness to him. So at least death will help him. Moving on. Clarissa often remembers Burton, her large country home. So she remembers morning walks, the sound of the French windows opening, and small moments that felt like fate. One major memory is Peter Walsh courtship. Here, Peter loved Clarissa deeply and wanted to share everything with her. He was intense, demanding, and wanted a life of constant sharing. And then another memory is Sally Seaton. Sally was wild, bold, and full of spirit. She once kissed Clarissa on her lips. Clarissa called that moment the most exquisite moment of her whole life. So, as I said earlier, these two fellows, Clarissa and Sally Seaton, they had some intimate moments which cannot be forgotten by this girl Clarissa. And then when Clarissa chose marriage, she chose Richard Dalloway. Richard offered her stability and a kind of independence. She liked the gentle balance of marriage, a little freedom, a little safety. Clarissa's choices show her desire for a life that offers comfort and thought, not reckless freedom. Actually, she chose Richard for the independence and freedom which a girl wants in her life, but this meant to be the total opposite because Richard always giving too much of freedom and she doesn't even care about Clarissa, which she didn't expect from her marriage life. So she left the a man who came from India. His name is Peter Walsh. He left Peter Walsh only because Peter is very clingy and he is not allowing the girl to do anything, and he wants each and every moment of Clarissa's life to be shared to him. As given in the second point, everything had to be shared and everything gone into. He wants all the things of Clarissa to be dealt with the concern of Peter Walsh. So she didn't like that clinginess and she moved to Richard. But Richard is too Peter Walsh and Richard, they both are in a two extremes. This fellow wants everything to be shared, and this fellow, he didn't even care about Clarissa. Whatever you do, you can do. He is letting her do anything, but this is also deeply hurting Clarissa. And then moving on the morning of Clarissa's party, Peter Walsh arrives unexpectedly. He has returned from India. He still carries his old emotions and even his pocket knife. So, this pocket knife symbolizes some kind of danger. And this meeting is awkward and intense. Peter actually speaks passionately, and at one point begins to cry. The old love of Clarissa and Peter is rekindled here. Peter tells Clarissa about a woman named Daisy in India, Daisy Simons, someone he loves. Their conversation opens old wounds, and after leaving Clarissa's home, Peter walks the streets of London thinking about his life and failures. He follows a young woman in the street and imagines the story about her. Peter shows how a person carries the past with them and how memory influences the current emotions. And then these two fellows are the doctors who treat Septimus Varens, Dr. Holmes and Sir William Bradshaw. Dr. Holmes is Septimus' general practitioner. He is friendly and cheerful, but he is dangerously ignorant about a serious mental illness of Septimus. He tells Ricia that there is nothing, whatever the society, whatever seriously the matter with Septimus, he takes everything in an easy-going way. This is really not fine for Septimus, and this shows how some doctor in that era did not understand psychological trauma. And then Sir William Bradshaw is a distinguished psychiatrist. He believes in a social and order proportions. He thinks people should fit within society's rule. Bradshaw recommends the institutionalization for the patients he sees as dangerous or disorderly. So, this is all about the doctors. And here, a tragic end. So, let's see this in the second part of the video because this video is going too long. Let's continue this in the second video. Thank you.